And as the lender here alleges, as a direct result of that negligence in the appraisal, the lender was forced to pay Fannie Mae $185,000. So that lender is now suing this appraiser for that appraisal defect, and we can see here where the bank's claim for damages against the appraiser. The bank is requesting that the court award a judgment in the amount of $185,000 plus costs, interests, and attorney's fees. And again, this is one of thousands of these types of liability issues that we see relating to mortgage repurchases every year. The next slide will show you the appraisal that was actually the subject of this, was actually provided for this loan, and that is the subject of this lawsuit. And it's very typical appraisal. I apologize that it's somewhat low in quality as far as visually. And that's because this appraisal was actually attached as an exhibit to the lawsuit here. Of course, some aspects of the UCDP are going to eliminate maybe some of the low quality visual representations of appraisals because all of these appraisals will now reside at Fannie Mae even pre-funding. But so let's look at this particular appraisal. Here, Bill talked about the word average being somewhat meaningless but used so often by appraisers. The word average in this adjustment grid appears no less than 16 times for a variety of different characteristics of the property. And then the meaningless term, I'd say conventional, is used for the description of the design or style of each of the property and the comparables. Then Bill also pointed out to me that for view, the appraiser here put none, none, none. That's also something that's going to be addressed with UAD. But it's not so much, in my feeling, the use of these terms that's the problem. It's the fact that an appraisal that uses terms like this gives very little analysis to the property. And when you see terms like this being used over and over again, it generally means that the appraiser really isn't doing the level of analysis that needs to be done as to the value of the property. And that's why I think we see this kind of meaningless terminology being used in so many of the appraisals that are the subject of the liability claims that we see against appraisers and also AMCs.
Okay. Thank you, Peter. Now, to get a little bit more specifically into some of what we can expect in UAD, first I want to review real quickly the 6 condition ratings that we find in UAD. And when you review the materials after this webinar and go through the lengthy descriptions for each one of these, I think it will also help bring additional clarity. But what I tried to do here was to highlight the key phrase in each one of these definitions that I think will help us understand at a glance which classification, which rating might apply in different property settings. The first one is C1, which basically means that the structure and its components are new. C2 means no deferred maintenance, so similar in condition to new construction, but not necessarily new. C3 means limited depreciation. The structure has been well maintained, and I think we'll find that a lot of the properties that the typical appraiser deals with will fit generally into this classification. The next one, C4, indicates minor deferred maintenance, adequately maintained. And this might well represent a majority of properties that an appraiser would typically see. C5, obvious deferred maintenance. The overall livability is diminished due to the condition of the property. And C6, substantial deferred maintenance that affects the safety, soundness, or structural integrity of the property. And if you were to flip open your Marshall and Swift residential cost guide and look at the 6 condition ratings in the Marshall and Swift, I think you discover that there's a pretty good parallel here. In Marshall and Swift, we see excellent, very good, good, average, fair, and poor. And when we get down to our C5 and C6 and compare those to fair and poor, again, I think we see a parallel in that in the Marshall and Swift, they talk about badly worn as the reference for fair and worn out as the reference for poor. And I think those would make good parallels for C5 and C6. The next thing the appraiser is going to have to contend with is that as we represent condition in the appraisal report, we're going to have to indicate whether or not there's been any material work done in the key rooms, typically the most expensive rooms to construct in a house, and whether that's been done in the last 15 years. So we've got to indicate yes or no about material work done in the last 15 years. If the answer is no, the entry no updates in the prior 15 years must be provided. And by the way, we're at basically bottom of page 1 of a typical 1004 appraisal report where we'd be making these entries. And then if the answer is yes, we need to indicate the level of work and then the time frames using one of the items from the drop-down you'll be presented with for both the kitchen and bathroom. And so the level of work completed would either be not updated, updated, or remodeled. And again, you can get a much more expanded view of the definitions in this Appendix D that we've been referring to. So, insofar as the time frames, we need to indicate whether it's been less than 1 year ago, 1 to 5, 6 to 10, 11 to 15, or if the time frame is unknown, we indicate time frame unknown. The time frames here are intended to represent the time in which the majority of whatever improvements have been made were completed. And then, again, we must provide a description of the condition of the improvements of the subject property. And so this is driving us to enter in sentence form our observations about the condition following the use of these UAD terms. So we also have the 6 quality ratings, which are listed here. Q1, this is intended to represent an individually designed property, something that was put together for a specific buyer, specific user, that they refer to as exceptionally high quality. Q2 is custom designed, very high quality. We may see neighborhoods where all the homes are built to this standard. Q3 is upgraded from stock standards. Q4, stock or builder grade, and may feature some upgrades, but a generally stock or builder grade quality. Q5, economy of construction, stock materials and limited refinements, things that I think we would see when we encounter mass production homes. And then Q6 is the lowest quality, minimal systems and equipment. I would think of things like a recreation cabin when I think of this one. And again, if we were open on Marshall and Swift and look at the quality ratings in Marshall and Swift, they tend to run fairly parallel here. We've got excellent, very good, good, average, fair, and low in the Marshall and Swift. And another thing I think appraisers might benefit from is taking a look at these ratings in that particular guide, because they provide a lot of photos of examples of what each quality is typically going to look like, and additional descriptions for those ratings.